some of the research I've been doing in the last couple of days has been very eye-opening for me. Uh, it really has, in terms of understanding the percentages. A lot of times people just don't do that type of work. They really just, like, for instance, I'll use Tekken 8 as an example. There are many people within the community of Tekken 8, for instance, they don't like the direction of where that game is, right? But many people who only play Tekken 8, they have blinders on, so they're oblivious to what is going on in, like, RPGs. They're oblivious what's going on in ARPGs, what's going on in shooters, what's going on here, what's going on there. All of this shit is connected. All of it. All of this is connected. And I don't know how I'm going to, like, weave these articles in. I guess I'm just going to read through them. And I will add them to the description of this, once I end the stream. And like I said, I could probably spin this off to, like, fucking 8 different individual videos, but I just wanted to go live first and just kind of cover this, because it's important to understand that if you are in the fighting game community and fighting games is your thing, you pretty much represent a very small slice of the gaming industry. Fighting games in general are, I believe it's like the lowest, or should I say one of the smallest gaming anything in the industry. Right now, I believe the top, if not top 2, is shooters. So this is why in the thumbnail I added casual versus hardcore, because there is a marketed shift on the intention, the development intent of which side developers are siding with, and that side is casual. Casual, without me even going to my articles, I can just tell you right now that the casual market of most things in business in general is the more profitable side. Okay? If I have something, if I spent $200 million to create something, and I have to decide which audience I'm going to target. One audience, if we just look at data, right? And I'm just using arbitrary numbers here because this is what actually happens. The hardcore market, let's just say 80 million. Okay, I would love to have that in my bank account. But then you look at the casual side, 300 million. Which side do you think I'm going to prioritize when it comes to making my game? It's a rhetorical question, but there are many people who just don't have I don't want to say common sense, the understanding. You are naturally going to prioritize the casual side because that's where the bulk of your money is going to come from. This is the main reason why you're seeing so many games being developed in the way that it's going, or being developed, sorry. Now, when you look at a game like Concord, for instance, right? One of the people in the chat mentioned Concord. Sony allegedly spent $400 million on that particular project. Now, I can tell you right 100% that what was leading that game's project, even though people don't really want to talk about it, but if you read in between the lines, you can see it. It was more like to establish more woke virtue signaling like characters, I mean, when I saw the advert for the game, and when I looked at the characters, I knew, for me as a 45-year-old grown-ass man, that these are not characters that are aligned with me. This is a game that is not for me. Even with me not having a PlayStation, even if I had a PlayStation, I would not even the game would not have even been downloaded. So it's a lot of times games don't necessarily fail because of, well, the development type, or should I say, how can I word this right? Like, for instance, you may have a game that is very competitive. You might have a game that's more of a hero shooter. You might have a game that's more of single player. The type of game has some influence, but when you infuse your game with a lot of virtue signaling, a lot of the woke aspects, when in reality, the vast majority of the gaming space are straight heterosexual men and women. That's just what it is, even by the alphabet community's own data metrics, which I've also researched. So there's so many things, so many layers that make up the gaming industry as a whole. Like, different games across different genres succeed and or fail due to different things. So many people may say, well, Street Fighter 6 is casual, Tekken 8 is casual, whatever, insert game, said game is casual. Well, that's done on purpose because they're trying to increase or just have a far better ROI, or return on investment. That's all. It's very much that simple. This is why at the end of the day, whenever I say what I say about Tekken 8, the game is doing well. It's not doing awful. It's still floating around. It's still, dog paddling. It's still getting its money. The hardcore market, the hardcore audience, for the most part, doesn't like it. But the game was never designed for the hardcore audience for Tekken 8. The game of Street Fighter 6 was not designed for the hardcore. Most of these games across other genres are not designed for the hardcore. And that's what a lot of my peers on YouTube and Twitch and everywhere else that there are, many of them, they cannot get out of the buffs, the nerfs, the normals, they can't get out of that. These developers, when they are making a game, especially in today's times, these games cost fucking money. They cost millions upon millions of dollars to create. And then even after the game is done, do you think those servers that they're broadcasting their games to play your little Tekken matches online, the Street Fighter matches on, do you think those shits is free? There is an associated cost with that. Somebody is picking up the tab. So even if they are not the ones picking up the tab, the fact that they are utilizing them, they have to show that, okay, we are worth using said servers if they are not directly paying for them themselves. There is so many costs attached to this. So I had this thought in my mind where I said to myself, when it comes to fighting games, I believe that the sheer development style, the cost of creating games like Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, and whatever, Mortal Kombat 1, all of these fighting games, this has completely outgrown the hardcore market to which I belong to, where they can no longer, or they may feel that they can no longer get a return on investment by dedicating this game to that particular hardcore audience. They don't believe it. And this is why you have been seeing a lot of the accessible, that's a corporal word basically to basically mean dumbed down, scrub friendly. They make it nice. So it's accessibility. So, or modern art. Well, actually, modern audience is a couple of things, but more specifically, accessible. We want our game to be more accessible. We want our game to be more accessible. Translation. We want everybody to be able to pick up this game, press buttons. We don't necessarily need you to learn shit. Just feel confident that you can press shit and feel strong. That's what it comes down to. Period. That is how they feel, irregardless of my fucking feelings or yours. This is what the developers and the publisher feels, that this is the path that they have to go by. And quite frankly, they're not off the mark. The casual gaming audience has pretty much skyrocketed the general profit of the gaming industry as a whole. I have seen data, and like I said, I will try to sprinkle this in throughout the course, but I know it might be boring just listening to me yap away, but hey, what I have to say is pretty significant. Unless you have TikTok brain and you just gotta, you need like flashy things going on the screen all the time. And to which I understand it, but not everything is for everybody. I get that. But looking at certain reports I've seen where people, financial analysts and financial people that are projecting where the gaming industry is going from now, or at least I believe from 2020, I've seen reports from 2022 all the way up to 2033. The overall gaming industry is making money hand over fist. So you have to kind of ask yourself, where is this growth coming from? If you're thinking microtransactions, yeah. If you're thinking accessibility, oh yeah. It's a combination of these things. 1 billion% I can tell you has zero to do, or not zero. It has very little to do with the hardcore side of things. This is why overall, the hardcore market within gaming, it kind of people basically are saying it's around 26 to 27.5% of the overall gaming industry. It's not bad, but it's definitely a very small slice. So when you take that small slice and you look at it from a fighting game standpoint, you're looking at an even smaller slice. So now that we understand that development for Tekken 8, for instance, because I know many of you are Tekken 8 fans or whatnot, much of the development costs for Tekken 8 was very extreme. So you don't think that Namco Bandai was like, look, whatever you guys got to do to get us that money back, do it. And these are people that supersede Harada during his time within the development studio. Supersedes everything. That's just the nature of the publisher versus the developer. Namco Bandai is going to tell you, okay, we're going to give you this amount of money because of the success of your prior game, but this is not charity. We need to see this come back and profit. There was no way, no fucking way that Tekken 8 was going to get that type of money back by just prioritizing the hardcore sweats, as the young people call them. Wasn't going to happen. Same thing for Street Fighter. Same thing for most games, actually. If you look at a game like Final Fantasy, that franchise. Does anybody even see how different Final Fantasy has been? Like, I, I remember back when I was a child and playing Final Fantasy 2 on Super Nintendo, which in Japan, I believe that they called it Final Fantasy 4 because the numerations got a little confusing from America to Asia. But that was the one with Cecil and the Red Wings. You know, it was one of my favorite, it's still one of my favorite RPGs ever. Love the story. Now, back then, was the graphics eye-opening? No. However, I can still remember certain key aspects of that story to this day. I look back at Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8. Same thing, even though 8 was more so, I prefer 8 over 7, but that's neither here nor there. And then when I looked at a game like Final Fantasy 15, which I have right in my little fucking Tupperware over there that I hold all my games. And then when I looked at what Final Fantasy 16 was, and when I looked at this and I was like, this does not look like Final Fantasy to me. This looks like Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden with numbers on the screen. That's what this looks like. That's what it looks like. And I'm not mad at it, but I have an understanding as to why they went this route. Whenever you have a game that is complex, it's going to take people to understand what they're doing, the mechanics, and so on and so forth. Typically in role-playing games, the combat system had a focus on turn-based combat. You take your turn, the enemy takes their turn. It involves a lot of planning. Do I do this particular attack? But I don't know if the attack is going to land. It might miss, and then my character is low on health, right? I'm giving the scenario, right? You have a character where if the enemy, when it's time for the enemy side to attack you, the character that you need to stay alive on your team, they're low on health. Now you have the opportunity to take out that enemy in your turn, but it's not a guarantee that your characters are going to land the hit. If they miss, your character is fucking done. So you have to weigh those options. You have to weigh that decision, because the minute you end the last decision, that's it. Now things are going to unfold. That little invisible dice roll is going to happen. Now, maybe you might score that hit. You might win the battle. But that's my point. There's a lot more preemptive decision making that you have to make. You're not only making the choice on what you intend on doing, you're also making that choice based on what you perceive how the enemy is going to respond back to you. And it does not happen in real time. That takes thought. In today's society, turn-based games are not really something you're seeing often. Not as much as back when I was a kid. I'm not here to debate which one is better. I'm basically stating, looking at how gaming has changed, they have gone more so to an area where you are able to mash buttons. You're pressing shit. You're not really learning shit. That's what it is. I see Hyper Stark, Power, T. Beachellin. Good morning to you. So, like I said, going to be saying a lot, and I've already said a lot in this last half hour, and there's so many examples that I can just give that some might go over some people's heads, especially those that might catch this after the live is over. But I'm doing my best here because I feel that this is very important for people to understand. So getting back to the overall point, when I saw, games like, Final Fantasy 16, it's basically, like I said, it's like a Ninja Gaiden with numbers, and I understand why they did that. Now you might say, well, if you look at what's that one, Expedition 33, right? Okay. Well, Expedition 33, they basically borrowed a Souls-like mechanic and put it in to a turn-based system. And to be quite honest, I mean, if I really want to, go there, there was another game that came out. Now, I'm not saying they're the originator, but I did play another game that did something like this, and it was called Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars, if you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, just Google it, YouTube it. It's not that hard. But Sea of Stars is a traditional turn-based RPG game, and pretty much during combat, it is possible for you, based on timing, where if the enemy attacks your character, you can press, I think it was like the A button on Xbox, which would be the X, I think, on PlayStation. And you can time that button to where your character will take less damage. So basically, it promoted more of a, like, you had more control. You felt like you were more you had more active control of what's happening. Same thing when you attack the enemy. If you attack the enemy, you press the button at the right time, you could do additional follow-ups. So when I first saw Expedition 33, I was like, okay, so this reminds me of Sea of Stars. But I love the innovation, but I understand, and oh, yeah. Paper Mario, definitely. Paper Mario is very good too. I didn't have the chance to play those games, but I heard that they were very, very solid. So when I see like what's going on with gaming now, I see that gaming back when I was growing up, when I would play like the old Final Fantasy games and games that were not that graphically amazing, when you look at what's going on now with the advancement of technology and everything else, that rises development costs. So, for me, this is it's a very easily understood premise that as development costs go up, you have to get a return on investment. And different companies are going to go down different routes. Some may have a focus on microtransactions. Others may dumb down their games in terms of reducing the gatekeeping of the difficulty of the game. And there's a lot out there. So I guess what I'll do right now, I'm going to just go and I'm probably going to have to just put my laptop on my lap. So it's probably going to fuck up hopefully it doesn't fuck up the camera, because I don't want to have to like lean over. I just want to have it right here. So let's see. Hopefully this works. Let me see. Okay. Because sometimes it should be acting up on me. All right. Okay. Let me move this over here. Fucking wires in my way. All right, there might be moments where the camera will freeze. I have to reset the camera because my fucking USB port on my laptop is suspect. All right, so let's go and window capture this. All right. Now, when I'm looking at these articles, I can't see the chat until I go back to the OBS mode. So, but I'll try to flick back and forth in case I miss people. All right, so let me see which is the first article I want to cover, because I made sure to have a few. I think the best one to start off with is this one right here. Let me make sure this is actually being caught. Okay. So this is from Game Pressure, and this is from 2023. And the reason why I like these older articles, and excuse the advertisements, because you know these websites, they trying to get paid as well, is because it goes to illustrate that while this article is back from 2023, it illustrates that while we are in 2026, it proves that what they were saying back then is pretty much manifesting today. So here we go. So PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the report on the state of the gaming market in the United States brings a number of interesting conclusions. In addition to the slowest growth rate in years, attention is also drawn to the growing disparity between the traditional game market and the mobile and casual segments. So according to the report, in the year 2022 brought the U.S. game industry a total of more than $54 billion in revenue. This result represents an increase of just 2.4% over the previous year. Now, analyzing the document, a journalist from VentureBeat suggests that this may be influenced by the market situation, which is slowly recovering from the pandemic period. According to forecasts by PwC, the rate is expected to rise again in the coming years. Because this, like I said, this is done in 2023. So we are the coming years, basically. And remain at a level oscillating around 6% per year. Much more interesting, however, seems to be the widening disparity between the two prominent branches of the industry over the years. Traditional gaming, focused primarily on consoles and PCs, earned a mere 27.6% of the revenue of the entire domestic gaming industry. The vast majority, as much as 68.6%, was earned on casual games and the mobile sector. So I want people to really understand that. Back then, during that particular article, it should become clear that even those years before, the casual market, regardless of your personal feeling toward that market, it is the larger market. It is the larger piece. That's basically what it is. That's pretty much what it is. Now, let me go back. So now again, traditional gaming, 27.6%. The vast majority, as much as 68.6%, was earned on casual games. This relationship, moreover, seems to follow a kind of trend in the industry based on the growing disparity between the various sectors. According to PwC's forecast, this stratification is also expected to continue in the coming years. By 2027, revenues from the casual market could more than triple the profits of hardcore games. 22.8% to 73.8%. The main reason for this is expected to be comparatively faster pace at which the branch of casual games is growing and generating revenue. That's it. I could literally end the stream right off of this. This right here literally should make this become crystal clear to everybody that wants to bitch and complain about, oh, why Tekken 8 is this, Street Fighter 6, the drive gauge mechanic. Oh, this is a neutral skip. Or why is Final Fantasy, it's gone more action based? At the end of the day, it comes down to making money. And where is the majority of the money coming from? Now, I'm not done. I'm not done. Not by a lot. I have at least a good 8 to 10 articles curated, and I made sure to select these specific articles in a separate folder so I can just go to them, bam, 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 right on down the list. I got articles stemming from this, articles talking about AI, articles talking about pretty much everything. But I feel like this was the best thing to kind of just kick things off. So let me go back. Let's go on down. A somewhat forgotten, but also worth mentioning aspect of the industry remains esports. In 2022, this branch managed to generate $455 million in profit. Year after year, this sum has been growing steadily, but still remains some marginal, accounting for only 0.8% of the gaming industry's revenue. Oh boy. All the reports of this type can provide us with an interesting topic for discussion and consideration of the condition of the medium. It is worth approaching them with a certain amount of distance. For we should remember that PwC's report focused only on the US game industry. The distribution of forces in other parts of the globe and the conditions there, the mobile market in China, esports, South Korea, could lead to a completely different conclusion. Now, that right there, let me just try to read in between the lines for you guys. Competitive fighting games, both hardcore and esports, their largest sector is the Asian territories. Now, it would stand to reason that 0.8 number would likely increase. But would it really increase to anything meaningful? Meaningful in terms of rivaling what the casual market does? Absolutely not. The article explains that they put that in there to kind of just for those that may say, well, that's just only the gaming aspect. I mean, only the American side. It's kind of like they're just covering their own ass. But even if you were to add up all of esports across the world, it would still add up to a very negligible number when in relation to the vast majority of other games like shooters, sports, and other games of that nature. So, but it just goes to show that fighting games is a very small market. It's a small percentage of the overall aspect of things. Yeah. So let's dive back in. Let's see. I think this is it for this article. Okay, so I'm gonna leave all these articles. I will add for you guys to do your own research for like the 5 of you that actually will. Because I'm curious. Is there how many people even in my stream? What is it, like 5? Let me just see. Just for shits and giggles. I'm just curious. Let's see who's in here. Okay, 20 people. Okay, I'm shocked. I am shocked. There's even 20 people in this stream. So shout outs to you guys. So the next thing I want to cover, let me get back to it. All right, which article should I go to here? So let's X this one out. I think there was a very interesting one here where I got it from Forbes. Now, Forbes, beware, there's going to be a lot of advertisements on this article. So you've been warned. So I'm going to click off these shits as much as possible. So this is an article from July 16th, 2024. The social casual experiences to command gaming revenue by 2028. Now, this is probably piggybacking off of the article I just read. But let's just see what they have to say here. The game, fucking advertisements. The gaming industry has been deeply affected by cuts and job losses over the last few years, but that won't stop it from experiencing strong growth in the coming 5 years. According to a new report from PwC, it'll top $300 billion in annual revenue by 2028, more than double its takings in 2019. Released this week, Global Telecom Entertainment and Media Outlook 2024 to 2028 names gaming among the fastest growing large sectors in the entertainment media industry. It states that while the pace of this growth will decline as the segment matures, gaming will account for 9% of the entire market by 2028. The report, which considered 53 territories across North America, Europe, and the Middle East, Africa, Latin America, and Asia Pacific, around 80% of the world's population claimed the superchargers for increased wealth over the next 4 years are social and casual gaming platforms. These accounted for 68.7% of overall revenue in 2023. They're predicted to have a 76.4% share by 2028. Going on down, PwC says this will reduce traditional gaming's grip. Traditional gaming, I want you to understand, read in between the lines, that is the hardcore market. Will reduce traditional gaming's grip on the industry from 28.6% to 21.4% over the next 4 years. Even esports and integrated video game advertising, often touted as major money spinners in the coming years, will remain a very small component of income, not even accounting for 3% of revenue between them by 2028, something the inaugural Esports World Cup, currently underway in Saudi Arabia, undoubtedly aims to transform. So let me just take a break from that. Now, I just want to really highlight that, again, whenever you hear the term traditional, that is essentially another way of just saying the hardcore market. This goes beyond fighting games. If you look at fighting games back in the day, if you just look at all video games back when, I know I'm probably older than everybody here in the chat. I'm 45 years old. So based on the era of gaming that I come from, way back in 1985 when I first started, games were very different. Games were difficult. They had very good story. If the game's what's the word I'm looking for? If that was their primary thing, like if it's an RPG, the story was great, right? The villains were great. There are people to this day on some Deontay Wilder shit to this day that still have fond memories of the Final Fantasy III, or I think in Japan, I think it was Final Fantasy VI, the character Kefka. That old character. People still consider the character Kefka. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, you're probably too young. But I would just suggest you just do a Google search and look up Final Fantasy Kefka. You do that and then you'll understand. That particular character is widely considered in the entirety of the Final Fantasy brand one of the greatest villains of their franchise. And this was a character that was created over 20 years ago. The only other character I can say that in the modern era that I've heard people talk about was probably the Final Fantasy 15 villain, Arden. Solid villain, but still doesn't really hold a candle to Kefka. So I say all of this to illustrate the point that much of gaming across all genres, hell, even look at Call of Duty. How many times I hear people say that Call of Duty, what is it, Modern Warfare was like that was like the GOAT, right? Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo Reach. And it's like every genre. This is not an accident. Literally every genre in gaming. If you go back to the older games, these are the titles that are generally more remembered in a more fond way. They weren't really doing things that was completely out of their depth. These were games that had compelling narratives. These were games that at the time they were graphically fine, but nothing quite like what we have in today's times. Now, when you look at modern era shit, a lot of it is driven by identity politics. A lot of it is being just a lot of virtue signaling when it comes to narrative-based games. If you look at fighting games, you're basically dealing with dumbed-down mechanics, brain rot mechanics like heat and rage from Tekken 8, people that would complain about the drive gauge system in Street Fighter 6, people that, like, you name a current fighting game, there is an entire mob of people that are complaining about something, not so much the characters, because character balance has always been an issue with fighting games. It's like you're not gonna solve that, but they're talking more about the mechanics of the game themselves. It's like this never-ending thing. And so when with me talking on this particular live, with the aim to try to educate a few people, even if it's two of you, to kind of get you to understand and open your eyes as to why things are the way they are and how they got here. Now, whenever people on my channel have heard me bitch and complain about Tekken 8 over like several months to where I finally quit and abandoned that franchise, I actually gave the solution to the Tekken 8 problem. I gave the solution. See, that's where when people would say, well, you're just a doomer, you complain. The difference is that I actually gave a solution. It's a solution that the people that continue to play Tekken 8, they refuse to do. And it's actually a solution that gamers in general can adopt for any game. People that bitched and complain about Call of Duty, people that bitch and complain about Battlefield, they bitch and complain about this, they bitch and complain about that. You as consumers, you as content creators and streamers, you guys have a card that you guys can play. It's just that many of you refuse to play that card. And the majority of who I direct this toward are my peers, the content creators, the streamers. Because when you look at the way games are made now, they are no longer designed for you, the traditional audience. Like I said earlier, whenever you hear that term, read in between the lines. Traditional means hardcore. They don't care. Your group, and I say your group, your market, it accounts for a very small percentage of actual revenue. Maybe, actually not maybe, back in the day, this was different because the cost of developing a game was significantly lower. The cost of marketing the game, the cost of upkeeping the game was much different, lower. So that way, games could appeal to that hardcore audience. Games could maintain their identity. What is it my peers keep saying about, Tekken and the other games? Oh, this character lost their identity. Isn't that one of Main Man Sui's favorite lines? The identity. Because the identity is not translating into money. They don't care. They just don't. And by people continuing to play these particular games, what you are doing, and this is why I made that video where I was calling out people, hypocrites and shit like that. What you are doing is saying, I don't like your product. Actually, no, scratch that. I don't like this restaurant. I don't like your food. But next week, you're back there sitting in that same restaurant, ordering more food. So this is why I call many of these people hypocrites. Because the game industry has moved pretty much like they cater, right? 21% is still 21%, right? Or at least that's where it's going to go toward. Right now, I believe it, like they said in the article. What was it again? Let me read this again. 28%, right? About 28%. Okay, about 28%. So that's still a pretty sizable market. But like I say, that is the overall industry. If we isolate that for like fighting games, that 28% is even smaller. Because that 28.6% is the overarching gaming space across multiple genres, shooters, RTS, everything. So when you understand that, which I hope that you guys are, you understand that this is a very small, that pie becomes even smaller. So when you have a developer like Capcom, Namco, NetherRealm Studios, when you have all these big companies that are making fighting games, they do not feel that they're going to make back a significant amount of money by catering to that. Well, it wouldn't be 28.6% because, like I said, that slice will be even smaller. So I can speculate it's probably somewhere in maybe 10%, maybe single digits, because that slice also, you have to factor in, it also encompasses RPGs, JRPGs, shooters. So that slice, there's not much space for fighting games. So yeah, it makes 100% business sense to make games that are catering to that much larger market. And unfortunately, people that are within that small hardcore segment, they are going to raise hell and bitch and complain. It's basically akin to a kid throwing a tantrum, and the parent may or may not look and even acknowledge you. Like it is what it is. It is what it is. And I just, it's my hope that I can convey this as best as possible. But there's just, it feels like There's so many moving parts to this. Even I, I don't know everything. I'm just trying to share what I know and just trying to highlight certain things, because I think there are many people who just they're spinning their wheels in the wrong direction. And many times I will see a lot of my peers, it's like they're focusing on the wrong things. They're focusing on nerfs, they're focusing on this, they're focusing on this, the identity. And I'm like, you're not understanding the source of why these changes have been made. You're not. I don't know if that fighting GM comment is aimed toward me, but let me see. The question is, if Tekken 8 won casual markets, solidified its future in it. Tekken 8 has made its share of money. It's made its share of money. And I was going to utilize a few other titles. I was going to even highlight some examples to try to hammer home the point. But I want people to understand this. If you have a game, and let's just say that game didn't have a large amount of sales, right? Let's just say the game sales wise didn't do well, right? I've seen a few examples of this. For instance, the Assassin's Creed Shadows, for instance. When you compare that game to, say, Mortal Kombat 1, Resident Evil 5, for instance, like Resident Evil 5, Capcom came out and said that they sold 5 million or something like that, right? Mortal Kombat 1, I didn't make a video about it. I saw a couple of creators talk about it. I think D All the Way talked about it, even though I don't think he quite understood. Well, the thing, I watched part of his video, and I appreciate that he made a video like that, but he didn't really understand why he went on a little rant, not understanding why Mortal Kombat, no, not excuse me, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Tekken are considered the big three. He didn't really quite understand that. But anyway, I think just to kind of just to put it out there, the reason why those games are considered how they're considered is because of global sales in terms of their selling of the franchise, the total revenue generated across multiple territories on planet Earth, as well as each of those games have existed for a very long time, and they are widely known across the globe. So it's more so global recognition, total sales, total profit, as well as their own mechanics that are within the game in terms of them pushing the fighting game culture to the forefront. Even though I will say that, look, I always consider Virtua Fighter, for instance, to be superior to Tekken in the mechanic standpoint. However, let's face the reality. Tekken, more people know Tekken than people know Virtua Fighter. It's like when I compare Call of Duty and Battlefield. I like Battlefield, but at the end of the fucking day, Call of Duty, regardless of their issues, Call of Duty is the market leader. They are the ones, that is the brand in first-person shooter out of the two games that you're going to know. Same thing in ARPG, action RPGs. You're going to know Diablo. You're going to know those types of games. Sure, you have the competitors like the Path of Exiles, the Battlefields, the Virtua Fighters, but at the end of the day, you have something called the term of the movers and shakers. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Tekken, regardless of whether or not you want to accept it, like it, the reality is those are the movers and shakers of the fighting game community. That's just what it is. That is the reason why they are considered the top games. That's why. But outside of that, I think I was talking about D all the way in his video. I think the video was pretty good, but just I don't know if he would actually see this or not. But I just wanted to kind of share that because I always like to kind of give people a bit more perspective on why things are the way they are, you know, irregardless of personal feelings. You know, like again, like for me, I don't like Tekken 8 where it's at. However, the developers of Tekken 8, they accomplished their mission. Their mission was to create basically a game that's cosplaying as a Tekken game that has done decent, good for them, profit-wise. It has. And this kind of goes back to the point that I was saying as I'm just kind of like focusing on the camera or whatever. I appreciate you guys. You know, the guys that are here in the chat. I see Masatsu here. I'm doing well. Came in just wait. Has more recognition than wait. COD said COD has more recognition than COD. That must be a typo because you're comparing the same thing to the same thing. What is it true? However, the thing is with Battlefield is that Battlefield is a game that is, they do two different things. Call of Duty is like the, I would argue and say, just to kind of put it in this way, Call of Duty is like the Street Fighter Tekken of first-person shooters, whereas Battlefield is more like the Virtua Fighter, King of Fighter of shooters. Battlefield is more serious. Battlefield is more more destruction. There's more attention to detail. Call of Duty is more pick up and play. If you look at the nature of Call of Duty, you're primarily really a lone wolf for the most part. You're rewarded as being as such. They reward you with the kill streaks, which basically incentivizes you to go ham, and everybody on your team is essentially fucking Rambo. Whereas Battlefield has its culture lied more so in a more realistic, or as realistic as they can, with also an emphasis on your team and your class. So when you have those added elements, it does make the game a little bit more difficult. In fact, I have seen videos of people that have tried to go from like Call of Duty players trying Battlefield. It's quite entertaining. But I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I might dip and dabble into that. But there are varying examples that denote the arcade style of a game versus the simulation. This is why I look at Tekken 8 as more of like an arcade game, and Virtua Fighter is more of a simulation game. Gran Turismo, Ridge Racer. Call of Duty, Battlefield. That is basically what I'm trying to express. However, many of those games, it costs a lot of money to make those games. So what are you seeing more and more? You're seeing microtransactions. Microtransactions are pretty much, at this point, the lifeblood of many of these games that are coming out, to where they are continuously being drip fed money beyond the point of sale. So, but anyway, I want to just say, you know, I appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to keep referencing that because I think it's very important because you guys could do fucking whatever else with your time. But for me, breaking this down, unless I'm referring to an article, all of this is coming off the top of my head. Like literally, you know, there's no fucking script here. I always like to do this. Like we do here. There's no script, as you see, nothing here, no fucking teleprompter, nothing. It's just me. So that's why sometimes I tend to lose. I don't want to lose my train of thought. So maybe I'll get better as a streamer and I'm able to, like, you know, Asmongold the shit and looking and can kind of keep things going. But yeah, when you're and I think that's something that I do take pride in, and it kind of just shows that I have a much firmer grasp of these matters than a lot of people. But I do intend and have leaned on a couple of articles. But yeah, let me see here. So what else could I say here? Asmin, well, I mean, shit, you know, if you look at my shit, fuck that. That's why, I mean, I do enjoy wearing my hat, but I gotta admit, it's like 70 degrees here in New York. So, you know, I'm losing my fucking head. But then I'm 45 years old. I have a fucking excuse. Shit. Yeah, the the Arturo situation. Yeah, I was interacting with Arturo. He and we go way back. We're from the same era. In fact, he left a very interesting video on his channel, like on his Twitter, breaking down his history with me. I think he tagged the Sophie character. He tagged GM. I don't know if anybody saw it. But it was pretty cool listening to that. I just hope he's well. I've heard a whole lot of things. I don't really want to speak on too much that I don't fully know about. But I'm pretty sure that will be a good stream for Hollow. I'm pretty sure, you know, he'll have a whole bunch of people tuning in. So I hope the people get what they want out of it. And yeah. But so I wanted to go on to the next article here. Or maybe I could just finish this one up, actually. Yeah, there's more to this article. So, all right. So the Asia Pacific, the biggest generator of total video game and esports revenue, will power change. In 2023, the region generated $109.6 billion in revenue, which is 48.1%. By 2028, PwC believes it will account for 181.8 billion. So do you see that? So in 2023, it went from 109.6 billion to only 5 years. Well, right now, 2 years from this point will increase by 181.8. Markets continue to emerge while Japan and China remain gamer havens. The community highlights Indonesia and Pakistan as key nations for growth. Industry revenue is conventionally characterized by game purchases and subscriptions, but PwC says in-game advertising will become more prominent. In-game, oh, well, what do you know? In-game advertisements. Isn't that what a lot of companies are doing nowadays, where they're putting ads in certain subscription services? It's already happening. This is why when I talk about the involvement of the AI, when I talk about subscription services, when I talk about digital ownership, and I put in quotations, there are things that are happening within the gaming space that go far beyond fighting games. Fighting games is just merely just a small component on this whole thing. Very, very small. Very, very small. But let me just go back. And so yeah. There we go. Okay, this is where I was. Industry revenue is conventionally characterized by in-game purchases and subscriptions, but PwC says in-game advertising will become more prominent. In-app social and casual gaming revenue is predicted to jump from 82.9 billion to 147.9 billion by 2028. That's 2 years from now. While in-app games advertising revenue will rise more slowly from 72.4 billion to 106.6, that's still a good percentage jump, but slower by comparison to the other numbers. PwC cites the rumored 2025 release of Nintendo Switch's successor as a key driver alongside, quote, investments in new products, new technologies, and new business models. Younger demographics will continue to drive targets, with the company noting how Disney and Epic Games are now working together to combine Fortnite with the Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar franchises. It's just so interesting. Oh, thank you for the follow, Just Seeker. I appreciate that, bro. It's interesting when I just look at all of this. When I look at everything, a big part of me just wants to say, I told you so. Because this is what I do on a regular basis. A lot of times when I'm not live, when I'm not recording content, I am literally combing through these websites and I'm gathering data. I'm gathering information. So whenever I see people that's on Twitter, which is, I feel, Reddit 2.0, and they're spewing a bunch of bullshit, truly misleading their followers, it angers me. Because I'm like, I don't know if this is just them, they truly have no idea what they're talking about, or they're purposely trying to mislead. Either way, it annoys me, it frustrates me, it pisses me off that you have certain individuals that have such far-reaching reach, but they don't know shit. But then you take someone like myself, and I'm sure there's other people like me. I know I'm not the only one that does this type of legwork. But it's like, I feel like I just get buried. So that's why I have to kind of come to the grips where I just have to focus on the growth, one subscriber, one follower at a time. And hopefully, slowly but surely, people will start to open their eyes and recognize the why and the how of things of this industry. Because many people, they don't really understand. And I can't blame the casual person or just the typical gamer, right? You know, you go, you play your games, you might find an issue with Street Fighter or Tekken, or you don't like how something is in a role-playing game. You might not like the localization where, oh, well, how come the Asian version of this game, they said this, but now thanks to fucking people like Sweet Baby Inc., don't get me started on them, now the characters are saying that. There's so many things that goes on within the gaming space that if I were to try to cover everything in one stream, I'll probably be here for fucking 12 hours. But I think that this is worth speaking on, because I feel like this is definitely within my wheelhouse, and whatever I don't know, I know where to go to get the answer. Well, I mean, yeah, that is true. You know, there are people here that are, you know, those that are more of the day ones, the day zeros of the channel, and I appreciate that. I actually never played that game. I never played that game. Never played that game. I've watched it, but you know, because because it's not because I own an Xbox, so I don't think that game is on Xbox. And if it is, I haven't noticed it. So another thing I wanted to bring up are there's an article that I seen where it talks about Marvel Rivals, and that's another game that I feel that is very interesting. That even one of the people on the development side of things, they came out and said verbatim that they made sure to target casuals when it came to that game. So I made sure to take that article as well. Let me see where else. Hold on, let me check something right quick. So let me go on over. Is there anything else? Okay, no, this article is done. So let me go. Let me look. All right, let me go over to the Marvel Rivals aspect, because I think this is also something very interesting here. So this is an article, as I make a little stream marker here. So this article here from Video Gamer, and does it have a date here? Do I see a date? Oh, here it is, March 25th. March 20th, 2025. So Marvel Rivals, in the ever-evolving world of hero shooters, continues to attract gamers with its dynamic gameplay and diverse cast of Marvel characters. The title, developed by NetEase Games, has taken a risk with its game systems, putting accessibility. Now, did I say that? Did I not say that accessibility? You're going to hear these terms. Accessibility is basically a nice way, a nice corporal way of saying, mash your buttons. You don't need to necessarily learn shit, just press shit. So when you hear that term, that's what it means. So yeah, accessibility and enjoyment ahead of rigorous competitive frameworks. Since its release, the creators have concentrated on creating a fast-paced 6v6 game that thrives on intricate settings and team-based mechanics such as team-ups, in which the heroes combine skills to produce spectacular results. Unlike its competitors, Marvel Rivals does not use a standard role queue, giving players the freedom to experiment with unique team compositions, a decision that has attracted both praise and disagreement among its burgeoning community. So, quote, this game is built to be more accessible for casual play, says Marvel Rivals developers on balancing heroes for competitive modes. In an interview with PC Gamer, Marvel Games executive producer Danny Koo revealed why the game prioritized casual players over its expansive competitive player base. So, quote, so every character we balance for fun first and foremost. As in, if the character is fun or not to play, that's always number one. So I want to break this out. I want to break this out, or break this down. Excuse me. The reason why they do this is the longer you play a game, psychologically, there have been studies shown that the longer a person is playing a game, the more likely they are going to go into the shop and buy things. That's just what it is. And that's across all board when it comes to games. In fact, I also wanted to show something about Assassin's Creed Shadows in a moment. In fact, in real time. But I bring up Marvel Rivals because I remember when that game first came out, and even I tried it. I tried the game. I liked it. It was pretty fun. It looked great. I didn't have no issues with the server or nothing, but I understood right away that it was a game that was aimed at casuals, 100%. And when I when I think on how much it probably cost them to make that game, it makes total sense on why they're prioritizing the casual side. Because the casuals, they typically really enjoy vanity metrics. They like, the costumes, they like the little titles, they like the little knickknacks. Hardcore gamers, we can get behind that stuff too, but not as much as like the casual player. This is the reason why I made a suggestion several videos and live streams ago that I'll actually say here, where I feel that fighting games in general should adopt a legacy system that's similar to Call of Duty, where the Call of Duty games have like the prestige system, where as you go through Tekken or any fighting game for that matter, you have your in-game rank, right? But you also have, say, if you're using a particular character, using Steve Fox or fucking, I don't know, Nina Williams, you also have another rank attributed to the character specifically. And as you get to that particular max rank character, right, you have the option to reset the rank, which will give you a brand new emblem that is going to be highlighted for everybody to see. You're going to have like a very, I guess, a dynamic, cool type outfit that only people that have done the grind that you did with that particular character, that's going to be on display. I feel 100% that is going to be something that would appeal to both hardcore and casual people, because a lot of the hardcore players, in fighting games, they do have loyalty to specific characters. So to give them something else to shoot for, which they were going to play the character any fucking way, like me, if I had access to Lei in Tekken 8, no doubt I would be prioritizing my main, and then as I get my general rank, whatever, that's God of Destruction, Tekken God, whatever, but I'm also building a separate rank for the character itself. That is something that is prevalent in the Call of Duty franchise that I think a lot of people who do not play first-person shooters, they're not aware of. I believe that if they were to bring that system over and adapt it to fighting games, that would be something that would increase player retention. It would keep people grinding for longer. It may not affect everybody, but 100% I do believe that would be a viable thing. The only challenges really that I could see, that I can't go over all of them, would just be to create things that would be appealing for those that are willing to do that grind. So for instance, maybe you get to the max level of a particular character. You get max level Nina. Well, maybe you don't want to reset and go from the bottom. Maybe you'll just stay maxed. That's up to that person. That's exactly what you do in Call of Duty. You get max level. You have the option to reset, go back to 0. But in going back to 0, you get now your prestige level 2. For fighting games, specifically Tekken 8, I would call that system legacy. So where you would have prestige 2, prestige 3, you as a Tekken player, for instance, you can say, yo, like, who's your main? Oh, I'm a Nina main, or I'm a fucking Steve Fox main. Okay, well, what's your legacy rank? Oh, I'm legacy 7, or I'm legacy 3. So right then and there, that introduced something very unique to the Tekken product that will also drive casuals, because this has been shown to work exponentially within the Call of Duty franchise. And as a result of that, because you're keeping players playing for far longer, that also increases the likelihood of that particular player to go and purchase something from the shop. That's just what it is. It's how it's been going. This is why, for all of the hate that people put on Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7, because believe me, I've heard it all. At the end of the day, those games still make a fuck ton of money off microtransactions. And that's just what it is. You know, so I can probably cover some of that here. So yeah, so getting back to this, let me see. So every character we balance for fun, first and foremost, as in if the character is fun or not to play, is always there. That's always number one. And then the team has data on win rates, making sure that no one character is too painful and oppressive, so that everyone's still having fun. But that's secondary. So when asked about his reasons, okay, I like this part here, right here. When asked about his reasons for prioritizing casual play over competitive, Koo says casual and competitive coexist, but the majority of the players will not play competitive anyway, that's for sure. They just want to have fun with friends and go, hey, let's queue and do a quick play. But competitive is also important, right? Because players also want an avenue to show off their mastery. That right there is very, I think that is something very, very, very key. You can create a game that caters to both. This is why I've even said it in the past when I talk about Tekken 8. The developers could have achieved their goal by just having a bit more balance. But the Tekken 8 developers decided to say the hell with the balance, and they're basically going full casual. Now, I understand why they've decided to go and do that, because at the end of the day, let me just show you this. Let me show you what is not in this article. And this is something that you can pretty much do on your own here, that I'm going to highlight real quick. I'm just going to go and I'm going to type in, let me see. Let's go to a new tab. And and some of this I've already typed in. You can see the searches I've made so far. Or actually no, okay, maybe not. But I said, how profitable has Marvel Rivals been so far? If we go down here, if you read this, I'm sure this is appearing on you guys' screen. Marvel Rivals has a net revenue of $2.9 billion. I want people to understand. So do you see why they decided to go toward more of a casual route? This game, Marvel Rivals, irregardless of maybe this game has its share of issues, bugs, whatever, Marvel Rivals has been a significant success for NetEase Games with a net revenue, not gross. The gross is probably higher, but net revenue of 2.9 billion reported for the fiscal. So this is 2024. We're in 2026 right now. So no doubt they've added. This figure represents the entire gaming division's revenue, not just the game itself. The game's revenue is attributed to various aspects, including in-game purchases for cosmetics and other non-gameplay related services. Despite the free-to-play model, Marvel Rivals has managed to generate substantial revenue, indicating the game's profitability and the success of its monetization strategy. I mean, this is why I try to illustrate there is a reason why these developers decide to go in the direction they're going. This is precisely why. I can 100% guarantee you, if that company decided to prioritize the hardcore market, they would not have gained that level of revenue. They wouldn't. That's just the facts. And I think there are people that may not want to accept reality, but what you see on screen here is reality. Single player games are good too, but they also have their own shift. When you look at some games that are virtue signaling, certain identity politics, and certain groups of people, you know, they have their own thing that's going on. But when you're talking about fighting games, free to play games, there's a shift going on within each of those genres that I'm trying to break down. You know, the story-driven games, and what's up, Jules? I see you. Story-driven games, you know, when I look at some games' combat systems, some of them have been dumbed down. When I look at some of the story beats, story elements, some of the story is very light, where, like I said, you know, they're trying to push a certain message, certain alphabet community stuff, non-binary stuff, some political stuff. And a lot of times you will see that in the stories of some story-driven games. Not all, but some. And I mean, the clear example of this is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. That was one of the reasons why that game failed. You know, and I feel that many gamers, they just want to play a solid game that is at least complete upon launch, where it's not buggy and all kinds of crazy shit, and not play a game that's preaching to them. However, that is kind of like a separate issue. It is one that has been affecting and plaguing the gaming industry, but it is kind of like a separate thing because it's from a different angle. You know, you have one side where you have game developers are trying to push whatever particular socio-political agenda. And then you have other games that are more competitive, like fighting games, shooting games. They're basically going the route of accessibility. Now, you may have some titles in the story game, like there is some crossover, but I'm just trying to keep it simple just for explanation purposes, where this is why you see a lot of dumbed down things added to games like Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, and so on and so forth. That stems primarily from the accessibility aspect. And then the virtue signaling, socio-political themes, and other kinds of type of things that's in single player narrative games, that's what they're primarily dealing with. So this is why when I look at the gaming industry as a whole, I see, like I joked one time, and I think I'm gonna keep this. I'm like the fucking Eye of Sauron. Like, I'm literally seeing all sorts of shit that's going on. And if I see it, I'm going to want to do a bit of a dive and understand, why is this the way it is? I've always been like that, even as a kid. I've always wanted to understand, like, okay, I get it's this way, but I want to know why it is. I want to know how it is. I've always been that way. And I guess it kind of extends for me doing this whole YouTube thing or whatever. Yeah, that's what I feel. I feel like I'm the fucking Eye of Sauron in this bitch. And, you know, because I understand that as I've said, the hardcore market, or rather the traditional, remember what I said earlier in the stream, you have these terms that these developers utilize, right? You have accessibility, you have the modern audience, you have traditional. Traditional basically just means the hardcore market of that particular genre of games. Accessibility is basically like adding things like heat and rage to Tekken 8 in the way in which it's added. It's designed to keep players playing longer, and it's also designed to increase that particular game's total addressable market. That is the whole point. And the thing is, the developers, I would argue that they're not really out of touch. Honestly, I don't believe that they're out of touch at all. I think that based on the data, it's pretty clear. I mean, depending on when some people join the stream, if I go back, you making $2.9 billion off of a game that is specifically directed toward being casual. Of course, you're going to include the competitive people, but we're talking about what is the priority. You're looking at this game. Now, you might say, some people will say, well, they made 2.9 billion. Well, how much is Tekken 8 making? Well, you have to understand that Tekken 8 is a fighting game, and fighting games make up a very small percentage of things. In fact, I think I kind of, let me see something here. This right here, right? Look at this. So you guys are seeing this? Let me see. Let me check. We got a few people here. So if you look at, not this article, where is it? If you look at this right here, this is from rocketbrush.com. Okay, let me add another stream marker to this. So this article is from rocketbrush.com. So the most popular video game genres in 2026, revenue and statistics. Now, this was created January 29th, 2024, but they are obviously, they've more than likely gone in and updated it. So if we go down here, key video game genres to watch in 2026. Do you see anything interesting about this? Do you guys see anything? Those of you that are fans of Tekken, do you see anything interesting about this list? I'm just kind of curious if anybody can actually point it out. There you go, Mr. Masatsu. And Masatsu, at what number is fighting games? Just to put it in the chat, just for shits and giggles. Fighting games is last. Exactly. It's last. And so while fighting games do pull in a decent amount of money, it pales in comparison to everything else above it. If you look at number 1, shooter, number 2, adventure, 3, RPG, 4, strategy, 5, sports, 6, puzzle, 7 is racing, 8 is... Now, the thing is, it's not like it's a bad thing. It's something that I feel that many people just don't understand. But I'm here, Red Related, to illustrate to you where things are. So let's go and dive deeper into this, right? Let's go dive deeper into this. So at the start of 2026, it's useful to look back at previous years and the most popular video game genre statistics to understand current trends. So firstly, let's explore the market view on the major gaming platforms according to Newzoo's Global Games Market Report 2025. In Newzoo's forecast, the global games market is expected to reach 196 billion in 2026 and continue growing through 2027 through 2028. Mobile remains the biggest slice of revenue, followed by consoles and PC. Now, I want to talk about now, I'm going to repeat it again. Mobile remains the biggest slice of revenue, followed by consoles, while PC accounts for about 21%. This is very important, and I want to explain why. The reason why that's important is because whenever I hear people talk about, and I've heard this, for instance, right? I've heard this many times, and I want to just kind of just illustrate this point. I've heard many people online that would say stuff like Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard was like the worst thing that they did. It's blah blah blah. I've heard all sorts of things. I try to educate people. I do. I really do. I try to educate people and tell them that Microsoft could give a flying fuck about Call of Duty. Microsoft's decision to go after Activision Blizzard, you ready for this? Microsoft decided to buy Activision Blizzard primarily because of King Studios. King Studios are the ones that create Candy Crush. So, out of shits and giggles, let me just go and let's have a little fun here. I'm curious. So how profitable has Candy Crush been so far? Let's see. I'm just curious. How profitable has Candy Crush been so far? $20 billion. I want people to understand that. Now, that's not to say Call of Duty doesn't make money. They do good money. They do good. But Microsoft going after Activision Blizzard, this acquisition was not primarily rooted in Call of Duty's acquisition. Call of Duty was just something that it was like, oh, okay. It was like sprinkles on the sundae. That's what that was. Microsoft recognized. This is why I say Microsoft is literally been playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers. Microsoft realized and recognized that the mobile gaming is, in fact, let's type in something else. Let's look at how profitable has the mobile gaming industry been so far. So the entire mobile gaming industry. Let's see what they show. Let's see. I'm curious. Okay. So looking at this, the mobile gaming industry has been extremely profitable, with the following key statistics highlighting its financial success. Mobile games generated $81.75 billion from in-app purchases in 2025. That's just 2025. And that is a 1.3% year-over-year increase. That means that just means that from 2024 to 2025, they had 1.3 increase. So that's all that really means. Total gaming, mobile gaming revenue reached an estimated 126 billion globally in 2025, with a projected market size of 98 billion in IAP revenue for 2026. Mobile gaming accounts for more than half of all gaming industry earnings. That's worth reading again. Mobile gaming accounts for more than half of all gaming industry earnings, with a projected market size of 103 billion by 2027, which is just next year. Mobile games generated 81.75 million blah, 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 blah. Okay, so these figures demonstrate the mobile gaming's industry's significant financial impact and its position as a dominant force in the entertainment industry. The industry's growth is driven by factors such as accessibility. You see that word again. That word again. Have I told? This is where I would say, you see what I mean, chat? That's what I mean, chat. So yeah, so every time you hear that word accessibility, that is corpo speak for pick up and play, dumb down mechanics, or no real mechanics at all that you can just engage in. It's borderline brain rot. Pick up, play, mash your buttons, and go about your day. That's what it is. Free to play economics and the global rollout of 5G, which have all contributed to its success. I hope that this is, I really hope that it's becoming quite clear. I do hope it is. At the end of the day, to understand where gaming is and where it's going, this is where it's headed. And also, I haven't even gotten into the artificial intelligence aspect either, because I got articles for that as well. Again, I don't know how many people have probably just tuned in and probably missed everything I just said, but to just summarize this, the mobile gaming market accounts for more than half of the total revenue generated across all of gaming. That includes PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, Steam, everything. Mobile gaming accounts for more than half of all of that. So whenever I try to explain to people that Microsoft could give two fucks about Call of Duty and they wanted to get in on that particular industry, which they have, and Microsoft has been getting a lot of good profit from that, thanks to Candy Crush and other games associated in that particular market. So it's hilarious to me when I come across people online. It really is hilarious to me. And I put my head and smile because this is when I read certain comments on social media that say from people, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know shit. You're just a washed up old Tekken player. This is how I literally look down with a smile on my face, just like this, exactly like this. I feel like I'm back in the moment. I look down, I shake my head, nod my head, basically. I have a half smile. I'm like, and I think, should I completely eviscerate this person online? What would it do for me? Probably nothing. So sometimes I let them rock. Sometimes I do engage, like if I'm bored and I just feel like stirring up a hornet's nest. But most of the time now, maybe it's like because I'm 45, I'm not as, like, I don't give a fuck as much as I used to. But I'm willing to wager that based on the many people I've seen, I know far more than the average person. And it's because I do the work. I do the work that I feel that content creators in this space should do. But unfortunately, what they choose to do is they will take a headline without even doing any research into the article, nothing. They'll plaster the headline and say, you see, this is fact. And I'm like, when I go to the source article, do a little bit of Sherlock Holmes and see it's complete bullshit. But yet and still, these are the people that have the massive channels and the massive followings. And it's just, so yeah, it does kind of annoy me, but you know, I'm a little salty about it. But we here now. And that's why like doing this live is a little easier for me, because if I had to edit all of this shit down, this would take me at least 5 hours of editing to put all the articles, cut all this other shit. It would take me at least 5 hours. For what? 50 views if I'm lucky? So that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stamper. I'm going to stumble. I may ramble along. I might get off topic, but at least, you know what? I'm able to kind of flesh out the information for those of you that actually give a fuck. And that's what I try to do. That's what I try to do. You're sorry to be that guy, but irregardless isn't a word. Okay. Let's Mr. Gadouts. Let's see. Maybe you're right. So what I'm going to do, chat, is we're going to look up irregardless. Is irregardless a word? Okay. Irregardless. Okay. Def Marion, let's see. There you go, Mr. Godot. Hopefully you can read that. So look, I'm in, like I say, man, it doesn't take much to use the internet for its true purpose. So with this gentleman, he wants to basically say that, I guess he's critiquing my choice of words, which is fine, when all I got to do is Mr. What's his name? He probably bailed the stream. What's his name? Mr. Godot? Mr. Godot. Let's see. Mr. Godot. Let's see here. Bop. Wait, can I do this? Nope. Yeah, so that's what he feels. He feels that that wasn't a word. So it is what it is. I guess he's right. I'm wrong. But like I said, man, in fact, I'm kind of glad he did that, because it goes to illustrate what I choose to do. Many people use the internet to doom scroll, which I'm guilty of, but it's another way to use it, and that is to actually gain information. And then what I do with that information, I process it, commit it to memory, and then eventually when somebody is in front of me asking me certain questions about the game industry, for instance, and I can tell them like, hey, if you hear the term traditional, that means hardcore. If you mean accessibility, that basically means we're going to be simplifying your game controls, modernizing your game controls. We're going to remove or drastically alter the in-game mechanics, whether it's a role-playing game, whether it's a fighting game, whether it's a shooting game. We're going to do that. So I'm able to recite certain information off the top of my mind because I did my research. It's like studying for a test. If you care about certain aspects of the subject matter, you're going to retain a lot of the information. And when it comes to the gaming industry, which I absolutely love, I am a student of this game. And so this is what I do. But I have heard people that have criticized my use of irregardless, and that's fine, but no malice against him. I just was like, you know what? I think that was a good, that was like a teachable moment of saying, oh, this is not such and such. Okay, well, let's consult, let's go down that rabbit hole. That's what it is. So yeah. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's up to whatever you want to say or whatever. All I got to do is just do a quick search. So We can get rid of that since that has now been solved. And so, yeah, so when I go back to this particular quote, reading the Marvel Rivals game, again, just to cover this again for people who might be new here. This particular guy, who is a developer of Marvel Rivals, he says, when asked about his reasonings for prioritizing casual play over competitive, he says casual and competitive coexist, but the majority of the players will not play competitive anyway. That's for sure. They just want to have fun with friends, go, hey, let's queue, do a quick play, and so on. And you're seeing that approach, that mentality across many different games. And that's why when I look at something like a Tekken 8, when I look at something like Street Fighter 6, it should tell you everything you need to know on why these games are the way they are. And sometimes the answer lies outside of the genre that you focus on. Because you might be like, oh, well, Tekken 8 is the way it is. Well, there's a reason why Tekken 8 is the way it is. And this guy here is one of the developers of Marvel Rivals. So you don't think that other developers across different genres, they may not have the same thought process? They look and see what's working. If you look at a game like 2XKO, for instance, 2XKO, it has been attempting to utilize a microtransaction strategy that you would see in a first-person style shooter genre. And I remember not too long ago, I watched that Heat Speak thing on a stream. Some of you guys were on that stream, where a guy named Aris, very popular Tekken creator or streamer or what have you, he mentioned that. He mentioned that, microtransactions and, developers, just if you've seen the stream, you know what I'm talking about. The thing is, when I talk about individuals like Aris who, they definitely, people like him know more than the average person, but they still don't have all of the pieces. He's still very much rooted in the game itself. Like, oh, the game is this, the game is that. You have to understand the decisions that led to the developer going the direction they decided to go with that game. Now, as consumers and content creators and streamers, you do have power. The old saying of vote with your wallet. That's an old saying. I've heard it many, many times. Vote with your wallet, whatever. And a lot of times, yeah, that is true. A lot of times you can vote with your wallet. The only kind of exception I've noticed is when the games are really pushing an agenda, because then you will see titles that even when they flop, you'll notice that developers in that genre are going down the same route. So that's a little bit different. But when it comes to fighting games, it's different. It's very, very different. So yeah, it's just understanding. You have to understand, like, the current landscape, that we're in. Everything is expensive. Their development strategies are different. The type of game engine they're using might be something they have to rent, or it might be their own game engine, so they have to pay for that. They have to pay for the marketing. They have to pay for the distribution. If it's an online game, they have to probably pay for the servers to keep the game online. So they can no longer create the game to be more in line with the traditional gamer, or, as I've said, the hardcore gamer. This is why you see games going in the route that they're going. You know, I'm gonna activate my Xbox real quick, the app, because I want to use something that's a little bit more in game as an example, and it's something I do want to cover. So let me I'm activating my app real quick. So I gotta, I gotta do this. I gotta connect it remotely. All right, just give me a quick moment. All right. I think, wait. Oh, wait, it didn't even connect. Hold on. I'll do it again. Still wait. Gosh, it's taking a while. Oh, okay, I got it now. Okay, let me adjust the screen. Okay, let me move that off to the side. Let's go back to OBS. All right, let's share. Let's put it here. Game capture. Okay. All right. All right. So I am going to play Assassin's Creed Shadows because I want to show something. And I'm using AC Shadows for a specific reason. You're going to see why. So just bear with me. All right. Let me see. Did the game freeze? I think or is it something wrong with my computer? Wait a second. Let's try this again. Let's try this one more time. All right. So what I want to do is I want to, hopefully this shit will fucking load. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I want to go to this particular, the microtransaction screen for this game. And I at least want to highlight this on the stream while I'm doing this. We'll wait for the game to pop up. Okay. So if we go to the store. Okay. So when you are in the store for games like these, over the course of time, when you are playing a game like Assassin's Creed Shadows, you have access to buy a whole bunch of shit, right? So you get these Helix credits by purchasing. So if I want to purchase Helix credits, here's your prices, right? So $10, I get this amount of Helix and so on and so forth. What is important to understand is that a lot of these are cosmetic. Some of them look really cool, I have to admit. Some of them look kind of weird. If we go to Noway, you can see there's like a ton of them. You know, you got specific weapons, you got little creatures you can get. So when you're playing a game like this, and it's important to understand the logic behind this. When you're playing a game like this, which is a very massive game, AC Shadows is a very large game, and over the course of time, as you're playing this game and you're a casual, you may feel like, you know something, I want to go and I want to have this. I want to have this particular look. I want to have this particular weapon. And over the course of time, you are going to likely go and buy this particular thing. One of the criticisms of this game, business-wise, is that people highlight that Ubisoft refuses to give actual sales numbers for this game, right? Now, let's just put it this way. a game does not have to sell massive amounts of copies to still be profitable. That's something that I want people to really understand. And this is something that I think many years ago, that was the de facto telltale success of a game, is how many sales, how many copies of a game have you sold? There's this old adage where, you know, if you don't have any good news, you might as well keep it to yourself. So while you have companies like Capcom saying, hey, we sold 5 million copies, NetherRealm, we sold 8 million for Mortal Kombat 1, Ubisoft has basically said what they've done is they talk about how many players have been playing AC Shadows. They talk about how much money they've had from AC Shadows. It's actually, they say that it's their most profitable Assassin's Creed yet. So that kind of makes you think. If Ubisoft are, you can argue and say they're embarrassed to post their sales numbers, or maybe they just feel like, hey, if we post that AC Shadows only sold 3 million copies, you're going to have a lot of content creators that's going to say, you see, AC Shadows flopped, the game is shit, the game didn't sell nothing, it had this amount of money for the budget, they didn't make their money back. So I would say that Ubisoft devs are like, fuck all that, we're not going down that route. But the other side here is this: how much money did Ubisoft gain from this right here you're seeing on screen, the microtransactions? That's where it comes from. Microtransactions of this game is what is, you know, it's basically what did it got them over the finish line, so to speak. Because, for instance, this game, I don't know what amount of money it costs, but let's just say the game costs $69.99. Okay, so you buy the game. You let's say Masatsu and Just Call Me DJ, they bought Assassin's Creed Shadow for $70. That's $140 between the two of them. Okay. Now let's take this guy, King Raven. He buys AC Shadows for $70. However, Mr. King Raven decides to buy the DLC. Mr. King Raven decides to buy the Sakura, this right here. Maybe he decided to buy this shit. Maybe he decided to go and, you know what? I don't feel like finding all the chests. I'm gonna buy this. You know what? I want added experience because I'm low on time and I don't feel like finding shit. I'm gonna buy the experience and extra money. So already King Raven has pumped more money from him alone than what Masatsu and Call Me DJ paid out, because they only bought the game, just the game alone. They may have played it, they fucked with it, they may have moved on to a different game. But King Raven loves the game, he's sticking with the game, and over the course of time, the amount of money that he pumps into the game actually supersedes the amount of money that Masatsu and Call Me DJ spent combined. These are the type of numbers that a lot of gamers don't understand. This is why I'm trying to illustrate the point, and maybe I don't know if I'm explaining it in a cohesive way. You can tell me if I am or not. I hope I am. That's the intent. But it just goes to illustrate that you don't always need your game to sell gangbusters. It doesn't have to be a fucking viral commercial success. If you have a strong microtransaction presence. That's why games like this do pretty well, because these are games that people are playing for long periods of time. So, and another way to look at it is you may look at the Steam charts for these types of games. You may look at, say, oh, well, the active player count. Well, they don't give a fuck about that. They don't care about, oh, we don't have 10 million players playing. Even if we had 5,000 players playing the game, how much money are those players contributing? This is why I use the example of content creation. I have about a little over 2,100 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I have about, right now, I have about 17 channel members that contribute to me and to my content out of their kindness of their own heart. Maybe they're supporting me and they like what I do, and I greatly appreciate it. But then you have others that, you know, they're not interested in doing all that. And then sometimes they may not have the money. They may just consume the content. But what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to illustrate a dynamic comparison between the two that are very similar. Some people may buy the game, play the game. They may not interact with anything DLC. They may not buy any microtransactions or anything. But then you have others that will buy the game and they're going to, you know, buy all these little knickknacks. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with content creation. You have some subscribers, they'll subscribe to your channel, which is the equivalent of them playing the game. And then you have other subscribers may choose to, you know, they do the super chats or the super thanks or the fucking the channel memberships. Those are those types of people by equivalent are the ones that go into the DLC and microtransactions. Hopefully, I know I was all over the place, but that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So if you have even a good, let's say for instance, if you had 100 people that was channel members to your channel out of 2,000 versus you have 30,000 people that don't really do anything, like they're just there, they subscribe, they may or may not watch your content, you stand a likelihood of making more money with the people that are more active than the people that are just there. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I come back to the point of, even if a game did not have massive commercial success, like, oh, it sold 5 million copies, it sold 8 million copies, quietly, they're still stacking money, because that one player is probably buying a whole bunch of shit. They're buying the fucking mega packs, right? You see here, they got the Pathfinder for 2030. They got the Far Future. They got the motherfucking, they buy the resources. Or the add-ons, the DLC. They'll spend $25 for the Claws of Iwaji. Or maybe they want a better looking horse, right? Maybe they're a girl, you know, and they want to ride this fox looking creature, right? You know, maybe they want, you know, whatever. Like, there's different things that interest different people. And at the end of the day, it all goes under the umbrella of the AC Shadows dev team, and then greater still under Ubisoft. So this is why you see certain companies, they may not announce sales milestones, but they're still making money. Another example of this is people that criticize Microsoft, where they'll say, oh, Microsoft doesn't, they don't keep up with giving Game Pass subscriber numbers. If you understand subscriber services, right? If I subscribe to a service that's $10, right? So that means after, what is it, 12 months is like $120, right? Like for the year or something like that. I may not be having a lot of subscribers to the service, but those that I do have, I'm making a good amount of money with those people that are present. This is why a lot of the insiders, a lot of the content creators, they don't understand that premise. They're stuck on the additive number of acquisitions, be it subscribers, be it subscribing to the services, but they're not looking at the actual money that is coming from the people that are already there. They're not looking at it from that standpoint. And I can kind of understand why they don't, but I'm here to tell you guys that that is a very real thing. You know, because Microsoft, for instance, like, you know, they wanted a certain amount of Game Pass subscribers. Maybe they didn't get that. I think the latest report, I think they had like about 25 million subscribers on Game Pass, or 30 something million. I have to look at it. But regardless of what it is, that is people that are subscribed for a certain period of time per person. Some people maintain their subscription year round. Some people might, you know, off and on throughout the year. And you apply this to Amazon Prime or Netflix or Paramount Plus. That's the reason why Phil Spencer and his team many, many years ago decided to come out with the Game Pass model to be what? The Netflix of gaming, because they recognize that subscription-based services is the true moneymaker. When you are able to make money over the course of time, it becomes more predictable than hoping that somebody makes that one singular purchase at the point of sale. That's like, I just wish more and more people understood that. I just really do. People may not agree with the business model, but this is what it is. This is reality. We may want it to be something different, but at the end of the day, this is how it works. And, you know, this is why I utilize Assassin's Creed in this way, because it is a game that has been criticized by Ubisoft by not coming out and saying, oh, we sold X amount of copies. But yet and still, this game, AC Shadows, is one of their most profitable, if not the most profitable, Assassin's Creed game yet. That's just that's a concept people can't seem to understand. They seem to think that you cannot be successful unless you have sold multiple million copies of your game. So they look at that as a failure. And a lot of big time content creators do this. A lot of big time insiders, you'll see them, oh, I'm an insider, and they like, the game has changed. And I don't mean just the video game. I'm talking about business. If, like I said, like for instance, let's say if I had used myself as an example, in a perfect world, if I had 1,500 subscribers, right? Let's just say if I had that, and a good 80% of them were all channel members, like even it's $2, that's fucking great for me. But then you would look at my channel and say, oh, he only has 1,500 subscribers. He's no big deal. He's nothing. But you don't know that, yeah, I may have a low amount of subscribers, but the subscribers I do have, they're contributing in their own way. Month after month, I'm getting those membership fees, including the ad revenue. Whereas you might see another channel that might be 5,000 subscribers, but they have hardly no channel members, and a lot of their videos many people aren't watching. So even though they may be a larger channel, but they're not as profitable as me in that example. So just that's why I'm saying not all the time the sales of a game is always the alpha and omega indicator of a game's financial success. Now, of course, it helps, sure, but there's more to the puzzle than that. And I came up with this aspect from watching certain YouTube channels that focus on YouTube growth, where they will say, don't focus so much on the subscribers so much, focus on, you know, these other metrics, and then yada yada. I don't want to go off in that rabbit hole, but that's where I was beginning to understand that, you know, like for instance, if I put out a video that might only have 100 views, which is, you know, I would always like more, but if I ended up getting at least maybe 1 or 2 new subscribers or more, then even though the video had low views, but I still was able to gain somebody. So now over the course of time, that can steadily grow. And that's the type of mindset, thanks to other channels that focus on that type of business, I was able to learn from. And then that premise I applied to now business, which kind of gave me the understanding of why AC Shadows does not reveal its sales numbers, yet and still they're highly profitable. That's what's going on. I appreciate that, Mr. Aston. So yeah, believe me, I try to break it down as best I can, but sometimes, you know, it's not everything is. Sometimes not everything is for everyone's understanding. Sometimes it happens like that. But anyway, let me get off AC Shadows real quick and go back to these articles. Let's see. All right, what's the next one I want to talk about? Because I have quite a few. Let's see. Let's look at this one. I actually like this one. So this is a website that I discovered, I'd say about maybe 2 months ago. And this particular website, dataintello.com, you know, you can kind of put forth different requests in it. Of course, I think they have a bit of a paid aspect, but I was able to get this particular article out of them when I was asking general questions, and I wanted to look at the casual fighting game market, right? So as you can see, it says up here, segments by platform, PC, console, mobile, game mode, single player. So they talk about a lot of different things: distribution channel, online, offline, age group, and so on and so forth. So let's get to brass tacks and get to reading this. So the casual fighting game market outlook. In fact, I'm gonna put a stream marker on this as well. So the casual fighting game market outlook in 2023, the global market size for casual fighting games is estimated at USD 2.5 billion and is projected to reach USD 5.8 billion by 2032. So you go from 2.5 to 5.0 in what was that? 11 years? I believe. I think it's like 11 years, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that 2023? Was that 9 years? And my math is fucked up. But anyway, you get my point. So that's a pretty good growth. And shows here it's a growth of 9.6%. So the market is driven by the increasing popularity of easy to play, engaging mobile games that attract a broad demographic, including non-traditional gamers. Now, remember what I said, I'm going to keep harking on this. Traditional means hardcore. That's what that means. So non-traditional. Okay, so we get that. A significant growth factor in the casual fighting game market is the ubiquity of mobile gaming. With smartphones becoming more powerful and affordable, more people are gaining access to high quality gaming experiences. The convenience of mobile platforms allows users to engage in gaming on the go, transforming casual fighting games into a popular pastime. As mobile internet penetration continues to rise across emerging markets, the user base for these games is expected to expand significantly, driving overall market growth. Now, again, to harken back to the other point, I mentioned earlier that the mobile gaming market accounts for over half of the total revenue by the entirety of the gaming industry. So that's also important in case you're new here. Another crucial driver is the evolution of gaming technology, advances in graphics, real-time multiplayer capabilities, and artificial intelligence. Look at that. Of course, we know we were going to come across that. Have enhanced the quality and immersive experience of casual fighting games. Developers are now able to create richer and more interactive environments that attract and retain players. So to basically explain that, the developers are able to create, from that point on, that creation costs a lot of money. So that's another reason why they are going in that direction, is because with the advancements of technology, if developers want to leverage that technology, it's going to cost them money. That's what's going to happen. And then simpler mechanics, shorter gameplay sessions, and so on and so forth, that all contributes. So let's get back to it. And also, when you retain players, like I showed with Assassin's Creed Shadows, the more likelihood you're going to have players that's going to be spending additional money in that game's in-game shop. This technological progress not only keeps existing gamers engaged, but also draws in new players who are seeking more sophisticated gaming experiences within the casual segment. The rise of esports and online streaming platforms has also contributed to the growth of the casual fighting game market. Casual fighting games with simpler mechanics. Oh boy. This is the gold standard topic. This right here, this is a YouTube short right here. This right here, casual fighting games with simpler mechanics and shorter gameplay sessions are more accessible to a broader audience, making them suitable for streaming and competitive play. This visibility on platforms like Twitch and YouTube helps in building a community around these games, fostering increased player engagement and loyalty. Moreover, the social aspect of these games can lead to higher monetization opportunities through in-game purchases and advertisements. Oh man. Look. This is just what it is, man. This describes Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, 2XKO. Hell, I'll even throw in Invincible Versus, even though I kind of like the game so far. All of these games are designed in a way to primarily target a casual market, because they know that the casual audience is going to jump on the game. They're going to press their buttons. And when they feel powerful, they're winning, they're going to contribute to the in-game shops, which is what they have done across Tekken, across Street Fighter, across Mortal Kombat, across like I even showed with the AC Shadows, a completely different genre, but it all pretty much goes in line with the same premise. They are making these games more accessible to appeal to a broader audience so that they have wider adoption for the game in terms of its sales, and to keep players playing for a longer period of time, in getting them hooked on buying things in the shop. This is why when I first saw the Tekken shop introduce the Tekken 8, I can still remember people bitching about that. I can still remember when that happened. And I laughed because I know better. I know, I knew it was going to happen. I just laughed. I was like, and the people that were making video after video back then, oh, you know, Tekken 8, they have in a shop, and look at the items they have, and these items are trash. These items are, you know, I use these items in Tekken 6 or whatever. I saw all those videos and I laughed because I was thinking out loud, and I said to this, you know, when you talk to the TV screen, you're like, you know, when you in those horror movies, don't go in the room, or don't trip or whatever. I said, and it was like this, I was like, these items in the Tekken shop that you've seen before, that I've seen before, they're not for you. They're for the new people that don't know any better. They're for that new Tekken player that maybe, you know, they're trying Tekken for the first time. That's what those items are really for. Now, of course, hardcore, if you buy them, that's gravy. But primarily, they're for the casuals. The heat mechanic for the casuals. Rage, you know, screwing over the winning player for a Hail Mary last-ditch move, that's for the casuals. That's to ensure that the casuals remain in a, like they have this, the feeling of power. They feel like they can press buttons and go far. Because when you're pressing buttons, which is what most scrubs and new players and casuals do, they press buttons. They're not thinking about what they're pressing. So when you have several opportunities within the game of Tekken, for instance, to press your buttons and be plus on hit or block, to where it's constantly, like, if you look at Tekken, you have a lot more opportunities to press your advantage when your attack is defended. You think that was done on accident? That was designed. That was designed to make the lower level player feel powerful. That's what it really comes down to, because a player that is feeling powerful is a player that's going to play longer. And when that player is playing longer, they are more likely to buy some of these gimmicks in the Tekken shop. All you have to do is swap out Tekken, put in Street Fighter. It's the same fucking model. Swap out Street Fighter, put in Mortal Kombat. Same fucking model. This is why when I see so many content creators, they're hyper fixated on the game, but not understanding the game. The game, business. That's the real game. And that's what many of my peers don't fucking grasp. Some of them do. To be fair, some of them do. But many that I've watched, and this is what I do. Like, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter, hours. Like, I see hundreds of channels. I may not fucking subscribe to all of them, but I see them. And a lot of them, they're constantly coming from the angle of the game. This needs to be buffed. This needs to be nerfed. This is the lack of identity. You know, this is where they're coming from. But they're not addressing the true issue, the true reasoning behind why this is happening. They're not. Unfortunately, they're just not. And maybe They just don't understand. Maybe no one has taught them. Maybe they just don't, they never thought of it in this way. But that's why I take it upon myself to break this down as best as I can. And I'll rant, I'll ramble until I need to take a swig of water, and which is gonna happen soon because my mouth is like the fucking Mojave Desert right now. But yeah, and then just utilizing some of these articles to illustrate the point that if you are in the fighting game community, you represent a very tiny morsel of the greater gaming industry. It's almost like, in fact, hold on, I think there is a cool chart that I think it's in the same article. Let me see. Hold on, is it over here or is it? Wait a second. Okay. This is from a different article. So this is kind of going back to an article I did earlier in the stream, but I don't think I went all the way down here. So when you look at the top video game genres by revenue at the start of 2026, so we go down here. Now, of course, this is console, this is mobile, and at the bottom is PC. So the blue is the mobile, right? So if you look at here, this should tell you everything that you need right here. Right here. This is from 2022 to 2028, right here. A lot of my peers on YouTube, I at this point, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. It is what it is. So yeah, so let me just kind of get back to breaking this down. So if you look at the total amount of money steadily going up, which is good. This right here is good for the health of the overall industry, but you can clearly see who is really leading this. It's the mobile. And this is why I go back to Microsoft deciding to buy Activision Blizzard, because Microsoft wants to be a part of this 55%, this, in 2020, this 54%, this 53%. This is what they want to go and do. And if you couple this with the fact that Microsoft is not only Mr. Blackheart, by the way. That was a good one, I gotta say. Microsoft is getting in on this 55%, 53%. They're also getting in on the actual console side and the PC side. This is why I say Microsoft, they're playing chess, everybody's playing checkers. But maybe sooner or later, people may come to realize this. And that also is in line as to why Microsoft is coming out with a hybrid console that is basically aiming for both PC and console. Basically, they're double dipping. And also having King from the Activision Blizzard deal. So Microsoft is getting all of this revenue. I just wish people would. Anyway, I'm trying to explain it. So yeah. So if we go down here, if you go down and breaking down the genres, they don't even have fighting even listed. Maybe, wait, do they? Let's see. I see action. Let me zoom in. Action, adventure, RPG, simulation, shooter, open world, fantasy, sports, strategy, science fiction, survival, sandbox, warfare, platformer, horror, stealth, and racing. So that would mean that fighting games would be under racing and would probably be accounting. It's probably not even worth even putting them down. I hate to break it. I hate to burst people's bubbles, but fighting games is a very, very tiny, and fighting games. You ever heard of Chris Jericho and wrestling? Well, You didn't make the list. Fighting games not even on the list. I mean, I guess they could have put them on the list. I mean, they could have but just know that fighting games is a very small percentage. But even that percentage, if you look at the total revenue of the fighting game, of the gaming industry, fighting games do make a significant amount of money. It's just that, you know, the movers and shakers of the fight of that shows you I'm from the fighting game community, so that's why my mind defaults to it. The gaming industry is shooters, action, and the games that you see on the list here, right? If we zoom in here, if you go action, right? That's number one, adventure, RPG, and shooters remains firm, right? So let's see what they have here. And this is the source here for people who want to look. Alania Analytics. And this basically is from January 1st to December 6th of 2025, which is not that long ago. So now we look at the top PC game genres. Shooter is still the biggest PC category by revenue at 39.9 billion. But the attention picture is tighter. This report describes overall PC and console playtime in 2025 as broadly stable, with PC growing while consoles dipped. So genres are fighting harder for the same hours. In that context, shooter and battle royale lose share while sandbox games grow, which signals reallocation rather than simple playtime growth. For developers in 2026, the takeaway is clear. Shooter remains one of the most popular gamer genres on PC by revenue, but results depend on a strong angle inside the category and a retention plan, not the label itself. So you got this thing right here. This is the 39.9 billion. So this is basically the PC aspect. So you got the shooter here and the simulation, but they're just prioritizing this, right? So it makes 23% of the total revenue of PC in general in terms of its total revenue across the board. That's basically what's going on there. So when it comes to the overall scope of fighting games, it's a very infinitesimal part revenue-wise to the gaming industry. It's there, it's present, but it's very small. So you have to factor, if these developers, not if, these developers are making these fighting games and they're leveraging game servers, they're leveraging technology, these lots of characters, motion capture, voice acting, in-game and cinematics. When you factor all of that in, since fighting games is a very small sliver of the gaming industry's revenue, fighting games, the developers, they have to make as much money as they can. And if that means catering to that casual crowd, catering to easy or accessible mechanics, they are going to do so. And that's just the nature of the beast. This is why they're doing what they're doing and have been doing what they're doing. They pretty much have no choice. Now, actually, no, they do have a choice. And the choice is pretty much this. If a developer was to make a fighting game that is very modest on graphics and everything else associated with that particular fighting game, there is a chance that they can create that game that is more so targeted to the traditional player or the hardcore player. You're more likely to see that in it from a independent studio, because independent studios, they don't have the oversight of larger publishers like Namco, Capcom, other bigger companies, because those larger publishers can literally dictate what you can and cannot do as a developer. So that's why some companies, they maintain their autonomy by remaining independent. This is where you have companies like Larian Studios. Larian Studios, they're the ones that makes Baldur's Gate. They're the ones that make the Divinity Original Sin franchises. They're an independent studio. BioWare, well, way back, they used to be an independent studio that was founded by two doctors, Dr. Ray Mazuka and another, I forgot what the other gentleman's name, but they were I believe they were twin brothers, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were twins, but I do know they were doctors. And when Bethesda unfortunately was bought out by Electronic Arts, then you saw the decline steadily of BioWare, because EA, all they fucking knew was how to make sports games, and even that they pissed off on that too. But they basically acquired BioWare, just to use this as an example, to bolster their game franchises, because EA could not come out with this on their own. They had to assimilate another company to do this. It's sort of like, instead of me creating my own thing, I'm just going to absorb what you did into my publishing house. Now, that's typically nothing wrong with that if you are allowing the developer to do what they've been doing that got them to the dance. But unfortunately, due to the influences of EA in forcing BioWare to create the failure that was Anthem, and create the failure that was Dragon Age the Veilguard, these developers, they become a shell of themselves. So some developers, they choose to remain independent. But when you're independent, the buck is on you. It's like the money is on you. When you have a publisher, they're able to cover all or most of the development costs on your behalf. It's like getting a roommate. It's like, if you living on your own, you have to cover everything on yourself. If you have a roommate, you can split those costs. It's the same premise, more or less. But, if that roommate bails on you, now you're kind of screwed on some levels. So, if you're in now, some publishers, they're a little bit better than others, right? In terms, they're not as hands-on, like they're not micromanaging every fucking thing. They're allowing you to be you. That's one of the things I kind of respected about Microsoft, is that Microsoft, they're more of a hands-off. They take a more of a hands-off approach. They're going to be like, look, what can we do what can we do to make your game succeed? What do you need of us? All Microsoft chooses to do is, hey, give us some updates on where you are with the game, and so on and so forth. This is why I wanted to talk about a long time ago, but I wasn't really doing YouTube seriously at that time, the cancellation of a game called Scalebound. That was a huge story back a couple of years ago. And the vast majority of the gaming so-called insiders and gaming content creators and gaming all these fucks, they were turning the gun over on Phil Spencer like it was his fault. And I'm like, in my mind, and I've even said this publicly a few times, I was like, you are aware that Microsoft was giving Platinum Games, that was the development studio for Scalebound, which is why I was worried about the whole Ninja Gaiden 4 situation, because Ninja Gaiden 4 was made by Platinum Games, but that ended up becoming good. But we're talking about years ago, right? This is the company that made Bayonetta. This right here, when Microsoft was like, look, you have this game, Scalebound, we like the idea, we like the premise, what can we do? That was Microsoft's position. What did Platinum Games do? Platinum Games spent almost, 5 to 7 years developing a third person, pretty much a button mash action game. You know, I can understand to a degree if you are making something like a Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, Witcher 3, games that really require some significant time to make. But we're talking about a button mash action hack and slash game with a component or a mechanic to where you're riding a dragon or whatever, hence Scalebound. So Microsoft pumped millions upon millions upon millions of dollars into this project for years. And what Microsoft does, which is why I respect them, or another reason why I respect them, is it's like, let's just say I'm gonna use one of you guys in the chat for a second. Let's say I'll use Jules, King Raven, and Masatsu, right? Let's say if I use the three of you. The three of you are making a game. You guys have your own what's the word I'm looking for? Your own vision, right? You guys have a game that you want to create. It's called, I don't know, whatever the fuck it's called, whatever. I like the game. I like the premise. You showed me a demo of it. I'm like, look, what do you need from me to bring your game to reality? How can I help? Help me help you. You guys are like, all right, well, we need this, we need that, we need this, blah, blah. We need some help on the development side. Can you spare some people can you spare some people that are skilled in this area of animation, in this area of motion capture? Okay, we got you. All right, we'll lend you some of our people to help you with your game or whatever. All we ask is, keep me up to date with what's going on with the development. We do have some game shows coming up, game developer directs and stuff like that. We might want to show something during E3. So keep us abreast of your whatever, your progress. The three of them say, cool, we got you, right? So we're like a major game show, like Gamescom. Gamescom is a major game show. For those unaware, it's usually held in Cologne, Germany. It's a major game show. So maybe 3 months out, I go to Jules, King Raven, and Masatsu, and I'm like, okay, so Gamescom is coming up in 3 months' time. What do you guys have on offer? Okay, you guys, you showed me your latest build of the game. All right, we would like to utilize that on this stage, right, to promote your game. You guys agree. What ends up happening is, about a month before this Gamescom, you guys send me an email saying This part is true. This part is true. The developers of Scalebound, basically, they added so many new elements to the game that it broke their in-game engine. So you know what Microsoft? So Microsoft is like, okay, so now what? So now Platinum Games, they had to create a brand new game engine for Scalebound. That takes time. So Scalebound was delayed, which means that it ended up missing certain game shows that is well known in the game industry. This is real life. Microsoft continued to support this project for a couple of extra years. And then some of you may or may not be even know, they did manage to show off the game, having extended playthrough, a demo or something. And it was one of the most herky, jerky, jank-laden, glitchy fucking showcases of a game I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot. And it was abysmal. The gameplay was very generic. It just ran very poorly. And so imagine Microsoft in this situation. What could you possibly expect them to do? Keep pumping money into this? So that is the reason why Microsoft, Phil Spencer, pulled the plug on a game called Scalebound. That's why. And the little makeshift example I was giving with the couple of people in the stream, like King Raven, Masatsu, and Jules, just to kind of illustrate to that, these guys making their own game, Microsoft just has, hey, give me some updates, keep me abreast of the game, of your development. And for whatever reason, the three of them just cannot bring the game to market. At what point in time is it okay for me to say, you know something, this is not going to happen. I have to wash my hands of this. And that's what I ended up doing in this fake example, to kind of illustrate what happened between Microsoft and Platinum Games in relation to the game Scalebound. A lot of times people don't understand that. And many didn't. Most gamers, most content creators, and I remember like it was yesterday, most just said, fuck Microsoft, fuck Phil Spencer, oh, he should be fired. And I'm watching these videos and I'm like, you can't be fucking serious. You know, if I were to put it a different way, that would be like, and this is more serious, that would be like if I'm a friend of yours and you're a drug addict and I'm constantly giving you money to help support you. And I'm like, look, you got to get help. You know, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to, you know, be in your corner. At what point in time do you walk away? At what point in time? Like this is why these are the things that a lot of gamers, they don't know that happens behind the scenes. And the only reason why I have a working understanding of this is because I dedicate a good portion of my life to look into these matters, to have the understanding to read between the lines and really understand, okay, this is what's really going on. Because there's an old saying that says, you can see what's being said, but you have to also be knowledgeable of what's not being said. So when when I looked at Platinum Games, who they basically came to prominence because of the Bayonetta franchise, but looking at their failure with Scalebound, and honestly, with Platinum Games, I'm not so familiar with a lot of their game releases. I know Bayonetta, I know Scalebound, obviously, and I know Ninja Gaiden, but all the other games, I'm not really up on them because they left a bad taste in my mouth, so to speak, when it come to what happened with Scalebound, because that was a big project and they fucked it up. And so I just didn't have the confidence. So, if they come out with games, I'm like, if it comes across my, my vision, I'll probably look at it. And the only reason why I looked at Ninja Gaiden because it's fucking Ninja Gaiden. And then there was controversy with that as to why Team Ninja is basically licensing everything over to this company. And then come to find out, it's basically because Team Ninja was prioritizing the game Neo 3. That was really the main reason. Team Ninja was working on Neo 3, and they decided to outsource the creation of Ninja Gaiden 4 to Platinum Games. So when I heard that, I mean, put yourself in my shoes, knowing what I know of Platinum Games history. I'm like, well, I basically threw my hands up. I was like, oh, I guess that's it for Ninja Gaiden. But it turned out to be a very good action game. It's not what many people, it's not what many fans wanted, because many fans wanted Ryu Hayabusa. But, if it's going to be if it's going to be a Platinum Games studio title, then they're likely just going to go and create their own lead. And they're just going to have the main character as a side character, which is what happened. But if you judge Ninja Gaiden 4 just on the merit of being an action game, I think it does a lot of good things well. And the game doesn't suck. It doesn't suck. It's not trash. But if you're going into if you're going into Ninja Gaiden 4 and you're like, ooh, I want to see what Ryu is doing. Well, he's there, but he takes a bit of a back seat. And that literally pissed off a lot of people. And I have no doubt that did affect the sales of that game. 100%. 100%. The Nier Automata, like I never played those games, but I'm familiar. But like I said, I said it just now, like with how they handled Scalebound, I was not looking at them as a development studio in the same pedigree as something like From Software or CD Projekt Red. I wasn't looking at them in that regard. I just wasn't. And why would I? Why would I? So, I'm pretty sure that they've had some good titles, but I'm giving you how I was looking at it. So just understand that aspect. And I had every right to feel that way. That Scalebound was a monumental fuck up on their end. So, and given that Bayonetta, wasn't really a game that really appealed to me. So it was like, okay. I recognize it was really what put them on the map. It just wasn't really for me. And, but I don't deny, how significant it was. It's like, even just, again, like for me, even Grand Theft Auto, I know this might come as a shock, but I'm not the most avid Grand Theft Auto fan. I'm not a Grand Theft Auto mark. I'm not looking to sacrifice my left testicle to play Grand Theft Auto 6. I find it entertaining, all of the videos and the articles about the game, but I'm I'm well aware of how powerful the franchise is. It's just not really something that moves the needle for me. You know, everybody has their own issues. Not issues, interests. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, some people, they have their favorite franchises, and that's totally fine. But that's just where I was at with Platinum Games. I just wasn't really a fan of their studio. I'm happy that they, you know, that they've I guess they recovered, from that. But yeah, there's that's why there is something for everybody, and you don't have to like everything. But when I speak to the growing direction of the industry as a whole, I'm definitely seeing significant changes in the way certain games are developed, what they're prioritizing, and the audience that they're aiming for. And then, when I go deeper, as I've been in for like the last 3 hours on this stream, where you're seeing where is the majority of the money at in gaming, and it's not in traditional or hardcore, it's in the casual market. Like I said, I guess this Mr. Ippy, he has he's a fan of the studio. So I'm happy that, you know, whatever, like, for I got my favorite franchises. Everybody has their thing. But you know, it is what it is. All right, let's see. Let me let's see. All right. Let's look at. Okay. Let me go and read this one. Game mode analysis. The casual fighting game market is also segmented by game mode into single player, multiplayer. Single player modes continue to be immensely popular due to their accessibility and ease of use. These modes allow players to engage in gaming at their own pace without the need for an internet connection or the pressure of competing against others. The narrative driven experiences and campaigns in the single player modes can provide a deep sense of accomplishment and immersion, making them a staple in the casual fighting game genre. Multiplayer modes, however, are rapidly gaining traction thanks to the rise of social gaming and the increasing popularity of online communities. Multiplayer fighting games offer a competitive edge and replayability that single player modes might lack. They enable players to compete against friends or strangers from around the world, adding an element of unpredictability and excitement. The integration of social features like chat, friend lists, and leaderboards further enhances the multiplayer experience, making it more engaging and enjoyable. Competitive multiplayer modes, particularly in esports, are also driving growth in this segment. The rise of professional gaming leagues and tournaments has elevated the status of multiplayer fighting games, transforming them into spectator sports. This not only boosts player engagement, but also opens up new revenue streams through sponsorships, advertisements, and merchandise sales. Additionally, the proliferation of streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube allows players to showcase their skills, further popularizing multiplayer modes. However, balancing single player and multiplayer modes is crucial for developers to capture a broad audience. While single player modes attract casual gamers who prefer a more relaxed experience, multiplayer modes draw in those who seek competition and social interaction. Offering a mix of both can help developers cater to various player preferences, ensuring that their games have wide appeal and longevity in the market. I definitely agree that, like I said, it goes back to the finding a balance, finding a balance. But I think many times fighting games, they just choose to not go down that road. This is why I remember an article and an interview, just speaking on Tekken 8 real quick, where Harada mentioned that the amount of money, or Murray, one of them, the amount of money it cost to develop Tekken 8. And I remember this distinctively. I think Harada said something about be sure to play. No, Murray said it. Be sure to try the campaign, the story mode, because we put a lot of money into it. And that was, and the thing is, when I looked at the Tekken 8 story, because I played through it one time, it was very well done graphically, and I liked what I saw of it. But I looked at the tone, and it was very like action movie. It's like something you'd see out of Avengers. This is what leads me to believe that the Tekken 9 story is gonna stay within that same theme. This is why I've speculated, and I do believe I'm more than likely correct, that the Tekken 9 story is going to center on the threat of the ogres that's going to basically make their presence known the world over, and it's going to force many of the Tekken characters to band together who you would normally not see on the same side to combat a larger threat that goes beyond their own personal rivalries, their own personal whatever. So I do see that happening. And, it's going to make for a compelling story. It's going to be compelling. Whether or not the community is going to like it is, well, we'll see. But I do see that that's where they're going, based on how I saw them even the way they handled the Tekken 7 story, so it kind of is like, it just, I see the direction, and I don't think I'm wrong. Maybe I might be. I'm not wrong on the premise. I don't believe I am. I might be a little off on the finer details, but I believe on the premise, I think I'm correct on my assumption of the Tekken 9 story. But getting back to it, from the single player campaign, I do feel that the way they created the story, it was definitely aimed to bring in casual players, because a lot of the characters pretty much had their own moments. Even when they had that segment in the story, where it was like a big open world battlefield. It was kind of like something out of Avengers Infinity War. It kind of gave a lot of the characters their individual shine. And I understood that. I understood why they did that. Even that was in an effort to bring in more casual players, and I do believe it worked. So that goes in line with what I just read from that particular article. And but yeah, I feel like with what I wanted to achieve in this stream, it was definitely not going to happen in one stream. I think there's just so much ground to cover when it comes to the gaming industry, where things are going with fighting games, the direction they're taking. Like I'm already here 3 hours. I mean, shit, I can like literally speak on this multiple times. But I just see things for what they are, not for where I want them to be. And I feel that the story of Tekken 7, it was good enough to accomplish the mission they wanted, which was to appeal to the casual audience, and also adding the certain gameplay elements to further elevate casual players that just want to go and experience a bit of competition, they're able to feel powerful in the character that they're using without having to invest too much time in the lab, which is what players of my generation we basically did. But yeah, you know, I guess because I am getting kind of hungry, so I feel like I can speak on this many times, and I think I will speak on this a couple of more times in the future because I have quite a few articles I didn't really get to. I kind of got sidetracked, rambled. You know, it's a fucking live stream. You do that. But I think I am going to get something to eat, and I'm going to come back on and probably later on today. And, you know, for whoever want to, you know, tune in, I will just go and revert or refer to the other articles I didn't get to, as well as I also wanted to illustrate proving that Sony initially never wanted anything to do with crossplay. I also want to touch on how AI is and has been affecting gaming as a whole. So I will definitely speak on that as well. So hopefully you guys that are lurking, I see it's like 21 of you guys. Hopefully those of you that are not subscribed or following me over on Twitch, hopefully you'll do so. And so when I go live, you guys will fucking get the whatever, the notification. And that's what I'm about to do. I'm about to hit, you know, turn on my grill, put this chicken on there and stuff my face because I'm quite hungry. But yeah. Let me kind of just check out this. I appreciate that, King Raven. I didn't get to everything I wanted to, but in the other streams, I aim to, you know, so. But I think I covered a couple of good things. And I think people who might watch this, like, after it's live, I mean, they might, you know, find some good insight, I think. I might go in later on and try to add some chapters, but you know, that's kind of, that'll probably, if not today, I'll probably do that tomorrow for the people that might catch this after the fact. But yeah, shout out to everybody that's in the chat and everybody that just left a message that showed some love. I appreciate that. Shout out to those that actually subscribed to the channel, that followed. I appreciate that. You know, just trying to grow and build and just share some insight, share some information that I've accumulated over many, many years being in this industry, not just in the fighting game community, as well as some of the articles that I've researched personally. So yeah, so with that, I'm about